I trusted my wife with everything and my brother with my life. But one night, I came home to discover the unthinkable. They had been hiding a secret that shattered everything I believed in. Betrayal, lies, and stolen trust tore through my world, leaving me numb and furious. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or run away. I never thought my life would fall apart because of two people I trusted the most. But here I am, trying to make sense of how everything unraveled, replaying every moment, every subtle shift in tone, every look that felt wrong in ways I refused to acknowledge. You know those tiny things you brush aside at first? Those details you tell yourself don't matter? Well, they matter. And looking back now, I can't believe how blind I was. It started with the smallest changes. My wife, Molly, had always been warm, the kind of person who'd wrap her arms around me from behind while I cooked. The kind who'd smile for no reason when she looked at me. But then, that version of her slowly disappeared. The first time I truly noticed it, we were having dinner. Pasta, salad, cheap wine, nothing unusual, except she kept glancing at her phone, flipping it face down every time it buzzed, pulling it closer to her side like it was something fragile she needed to protect from me. I asked, "Everything okay?" And she actually flinched, just for a second, but enough for me to feel that cold pinch in my stomach. She forced a smile and said, "Yeah, just work." But her tone was wrong. It wasn't "everything's fine." It was "don't ask." I told myself she was stressed, that work had been demanding lately, that I shouldn't make assumptions. But the excuses started stacking up. Late meetings, sudden deadlines, just one more hour at the office. I promised I'd help a coworker. Every night she came home just a little later, and every night she seemed just a bit further away. She stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings, stopped cuddling in bed, turned away from me when she slept, something she had never done in all our years together. Sex disappeared altogether. When I brought it up, she became defensive. "I'm tired. I have too much going on. Can you not make everything about you?" Her voice carried this sharp edge, like I was an annoyance, not her husband. I kept trying to rationalize it. Maybe she was depressed. Maybe this was a phase. Maybe it was me. But deep down, something felt wrong. Around the same time, my brother Marcus started coming around more. He was always the cool one in the family, charismatic, confident, the kind of guy people effortlessly gravitated toward. Women always liked him. He had that charm I never really mastered. But he was my brother, we were close, or I thought we were. He'd swing by sometimes when I wasn't home. It started innocently, or so I believed. He'd text, "You home?" If I said no, he'd respond, "I'll just say hi to Molly then." I never questioned it. Why would I? They got along well. She was friendly with everyone. But one day, I came home earlier than planned and found him in my living room, alone, lights dimmed, TV off, just sitting there. He looked startled when he saw me. "Oh, hey man, didn't expect you yet." His face was red, his voice shaky. I asked, "Where's Molly?" "Oh, she just stepped out for groceries." But I knew she was at work. She had texted me earlier. He grabbed his jacket and left quickly, not even saying goodbye, and something in my chest tightened, like a gear inside me finally caught onto something it had been slipping past for weeks. I still didn't want to think the worst. I still didn't want to connect the dots. But the dots were connecting themselves. The moment everything changed came out of nowhere. One morning, rushing to work, I grabbed the wrong bag. Hers instead of mine. I didn't notice until later. When I reached inside to look for my wallet, I felt a small object buried beneath her things. A phone. Not her main one. A cheap plastic burner-style phone. It buzzed in my hand. One new message. "Can't wait to see you again? Same place?" No name, just the letter M. My entire body went cold. My hands shook uncontrollably. I opened the message thread and my heart collapsed. Flirting. Plans. Nudes. Descriptions of moments that happened in my own home. Loved watching you move around the kitchen. "Same couch tonight? You looked amazing under that hallway light." I felt sick. I felt dizzy. I felt like the ground had been pulled from under me. My wife with someone else in our house. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. But from that moment on, I was different. Something inside me was breaking and I couldn't stop it. That night, I tried to talk to her. I didn't want to believe what the messages implied. I wanted her to tell me something, anything, that made sense. "Is there something you want to tell me?" I asked. She froze, fork lifted halfway to her mouth. "What do you mean?" "You've been distant, cold. Is something going on?" She snapped instantly. "Oh my god, not this again. I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed. Why do you always make me out to be the problem?" But I saw it in her eyes. Fear, defensiveness, guilt. "Molly," I said quietly. "Who is M?" She dropped her fork. Clatter. Silence. Her face drained of color. "Where did you hear that name?" I didn't answer. She stormed off, slammed the bedroom door. I didn't follow. I just sat there alone, staring at the eating utensils, realizing the truth she refused to speak. I needed certainty now. I needed proof. I needed sanity. So I installed a tiny motion-activated camera in the living room, hidden in a stack of books, something no one would ever notice. I hated myself for doing it, but I hated the feeling of not knowing even more. 5 days later, it happened. Motion detected. I opened the live feed. My wife walked in. Not alone. Behind her was Marcus. My brother. They were laughing, touching, whispering. She wrapped her arms around him. He kissed her neck. On my couch. In my house. I watched them. Frozen. Numb. Destroyed. They eventually moved upstairs. Into my bedroom. Into my bed. I don't remember breathing. I don't remember wiping tears. I don't remember deciding to drive home. I just remember suddenly standing inside the house, staring at them, watching Molly's face collapse into panic. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I didn't throw a single punch at first. I just said, "Get out." Marcus stepped toward me. "Bro, calm down, let's talk." I shoved him. He shoved me back harder. He leaned close and hissed, "You don't get to act like a victim. You drove her away." And that was when everything snapped. Marcus's words hit me like a metal bat straight to the chest. I didn't even recognize the sound that came out of me. Half a bitter laugh, half a gasp of disbelief. I drove her away. I was the problem. He had stolen my wife and somehow painted himself as the hero. Molly rushed between us, her voice shaking. "Stop, both of you. Just stop. This is getting out of hand." But seeing her stand in front of him, defending him, ignited something inside me, something raw and ugly and exhausted. "Out of hand?" I said slowly. "You've been sneaking around my home, with my brother, and you think this is just out of hand?" She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Just tears gathering in her eyes. Tears that felt too rehearsed, too strategically timed to hit my guilt. I stepped back, breathed, tried to steady my voice. "How long?" I asked. Silence. "How long?" Molly wiped her face, looked down. It just happened." "Don't lie," I said softly. "Not now, not anymore." Marcus scoffed. "Jesus, man. People grow apart. It happens. You weren't giving her what she needed. She told me everything." My stomach twisted. Hearing him talk about her like she was some neglected neighbor he did a favor for. He wasn't remorseful. He wasn't conflicted. He was smug, proud, like he had finally won something. "Get out," I repeated. Molly took a step toward me. "Please, can we just talk? You're angry, and I get it, but..." I held up a hand. "No, you don't get to talk to me like I'm the one who ruined this. You don't get to play reasonable now." Marcus moved forward again, but this time I didn't back away. I looked him right in the eyes. "You're leaving," I said. "Both of you, now." He smirked. "Or what?" For a moment, the house felt so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Thundering, erratic, I didn't know what I would do. I didn't know if I'd throw a punch or collapse to the ground. All I knew was I couldn't stay in that space with them a second longer. So I walked out, grabbed my keys, walked out the front door without saying another word. As soon as I reached my car, the first tear dropped, then the second, and then I was full on crying, chest heaving, breath shaking, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. It wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was the disorientation, the loss of everything I thought my life was built on, the foundation cracking beneath me. I drove aimlessly for an hour, maybe two. I don't remember the roads, only the way the street lights blurred into long streaks through my tears. Eventually, I ended up at an empty parking lot near a grocery store. I turned off the engine and sat there in silence. The world outside was calm, quiet, not aware that inside my car, a whole life was falling apart. I replayed everything in my head, The coldness, the excuses, the burner phone, the footage, every red flag I ignored. Every moment I told myself I was being paranoid. I hated myself for not seeing it sooner, for trusting them so completely, for letting them turn me into a fool. After what felt like forever, I finally drove back home, slowly, dreading what I would walk into. When I stepped inside, Molly was sitting on the couch, crying silently. Marcus was gone. She looked up at me with red eyes. "He left," she whispered. I didn't answer. "We need to talk," she said softly. I sat down across from her, not next to her, a deliberate distance. She took a shaky breath. It started as talking. I was overwhelmed. You were distant." "I was distant?" I asked quietly. She looked away. "We weren't connecting, and Marcus, he understands me." I let out a long breath. "You didn't even try to fix things with me. You went straight to him." "That's not fair," she said. I tried. "When?" I cut in. "Tell me when you came to me and said you were unhappy. Tell me one conversation we had where you told me you needed more from me." She stayed silent. "Exactly," I said. She wiped her eyes again. "I didn't mean for it to go that far." "But it did," I said, "in my living room, in my bed." She flinched, and for the first time I saw something behind her eyes that wasn't denial or anger. It was guilt, real guilt. "I'm sorry," she whispered. But sorry felt like a band-aid over a bullet wound. I leaned back. "Are you in love with him?" Her lips trembled. A pause. Too long of a pause. "I don't know," she said finally. And that hurt more than anything else that night. Not the cheating, not the lies, not even the footage. The hesitation. I stood up. "You need to leave." Her face crumpled. "What? No, please, we can talk through this." "You need to leave," I repeated. "I'm not deciding anything tonight, but you're not staying here." She cried harder. "I don't have anywhere else to go." I almost laughed. It came out as a sharp exhale instead. "You have him." She froze. That told me everything I needed to know. I packed her a small bag. Her clothes, her essentials. I didn't throw them. I placed them neatly by the door. She kept crying, whispering, begging, but I didn't let myself break. She left around midnight. The door shut softly behind her, and I stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the empty space where she had just been. The silence was suffocating. I walked into the bedroom. The sheets still messy from what had happened hours earlier, the smell of them still lingering. I felt heat rise in my chest, anger, disgust, a frantic need to erase everything. I stripped the bed, threw the sheets in the trash, wiped down every surface in the room like I was trying to scrub away the memory itself. And when the room finally looked clean, I collapsed onto the empty mattress. I didn't cry this time. I didn't scream. I just stared at the ceiling, feeling absolutely nothing. Numbness is a terrifying thing. It feels like the world has lost all color, all sound, all meaning, like you're floating in a void, like nothing you do matters. That was me, lying there, in a room that didn't feel like mine anymore. Eventually, exhaustion knocked me out. When I woke up the next morning, everything felt surreal, like I had dreamt it, like maybe Molly would be downstairs making coffee, humming to herself like she used to, like maybe I'd walk into the living room and nothing would be broken. But when I walked downstairs, the house was empty, quiet, cold, and reality hit me all over again. I knew I needed proof. Hard proof, something undeniable, something I could hold in my hands and say, this happened. This wasn't a nightmare. This wasn't paranoia. So I went straight to my computer, opened the camera footage, downloaded everything, every second, every angle. I watched it all again, even though it destroyed me. I watched them laughing, touching, kissing, holding each other in ways she hadn't held me in months. I watched my brother smile. I watched my wife melt into him. And every second felt like a blade dragging slowly across my chest. But I forced myself to watch, to absorb every detail, so that when it came time to confront them again, separately, legally, emotionally, I wouldn't question myself, I wouldn't doubt reality. Around noon, my phone buzzed, a text. "Molly, can we please talk, please?" I didn't respond. Another text came, then another. Long paragraphs, apologies, explanations, desperate attempts to justify herself. I turned off my phone, sat on the floor, closed my eyes. This was only the beginning. The fallout hadn't even started yet, and deep down, I knew things were about to get much, much worse. I didn't sleep that night, not a minute. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator in the next room, feeling like my entire reality had been peeled open and left out in the cold. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's face, that stupid half smirk of his. The same smirk he used when we were kids and he got away with something. Only this time it wasn't about stealing my bike or breaking a window. This time it was my wife, my home, my life. I eventually got up, walked to the kitchen, and made coffee I didn't even want. My hands shook so badly I spilled half of it on the counter. I didn't bother wiping it. I just stared at the brown puddle, watched it spread, and felt something in me spread with it, something ugly. Around 6 a.m. my phone buzzed. It was Claire, a short message. Are you home? I want to talk. Talk, talk, talk. The word kept echoing in my head like a hammer hitting a hollow pipe. I typed back, not now. She replied instantly, please. Marcus told me everything. I want to explain. Explain. Of course, they always want to explain after they're caught. I didn't answer. A minute later, another message. Can I come over? I stared at my door, as if she were already standing behind it, and something inside me hardened. I typed, do not come to the house. Her typing bubbles popped up, then disappeared, then popped up again, then disappeared once more. Finally, she sent, okay, but I'm not giving up on us. I nearly threw the phone across the room. I didn't answer. I went to the shower instead. Let the water hit my face, but even then I couldn't scrub off the sick feeling inside me. The betrayal felt like oil on my skin. No amount of washing could get rid of it. And yet, some twisted part of me still wanted to understand, still wanted closure, still wanted answers to questions I didn't even know how to ask. So, against my better judgment, I texted her, 1 hour, at the park. She responded instantly, I'll be there. I walked to the park slowly, almost dragging my feet, watching my breath form small clouds in the morning air. It was early and the place was nearly empty, except for a few joggers and a woman walking a golden retriever. I sat on a bench under a tall oak tree, the bark dark with dew, the wood cold beneath me. Claire arrived 5 minutes later. She approached cautiously, almost timidly, like someone trying not to startle a wild animal. Her eyes were red, clearly from crying. She wore the same gray coat she always wore to work, the one I bought her last Christmas. She sat down beside me, but not too close, a safe distance. Thank you for meeting me, she whispered. I didn't look at her. Just talk. She inhaled shakily. I'm sorry. Her voice cracked. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm so sorry. Why him? I asked quietly. My voice felt numb. Of all people, my brother. She pressed her lips together as tears filled her eyes again. It wasn't planned, it just happened. I laughed. A bitter, broken sound. People don't just happen into each other's beds. She winced. Marcus showed up one night when you were working late. He said he wanted to check on me. We talked, and he was kind. He listened. You had been distant lately, and I turned to her slowly. So you cheated because I wasn't entertaining enough for you? That's not what I said, she pleaded. That's what you meant. She shook her head violently. You don't understand. Marcus made me feel appreciated. He made me feel seen. I made you feel seen, I said quietly. Every single day for years, I built a life for us. I never even looked at anyone else. She covered her face with her hands. I know, and I ruined everything. I know I did. There was a long silence, only the rustling of leaves above us. I finally asked the question that had been clawing its way through me since last night. Do you love him? Her breath caught, her fingers trembled. I don't know, she whispered. That was it. That was all I needed to hear. I stood up. She grabbed my sleeve desperately. Please, don't walk away from me. Not like this. I stared down at her hand on my arm. The same hand I had held so many times. The same hand that had held Marcus's. I gently pulled free. I already did, I said softly. And then I left her crying on that bench. When I got home, something shifted in me. Something sharp. Something final. I packed her remaining belongings, clothes, shoes, hairdryer, makeup drawer, everything. I put it all in 2 large plastic bins and left them by the door. Then I called a locksmith. He arrived within the hour, changed every lock, handed me the new keys. Break up? He asked casually. Something like that, I said. Sorry, man. I nodded. I didn't feel anything. I spent the rest of the day in total silence. No music, no TV, no phone, just silence. I needed it. The quiet was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. But eventually my phone buzzed again. Marcus, I ignored it. Then he called. And called again. And again. On the fifth call, I finally answered. What do you want? I said coldly. He sighed heavily. Look, I know things got out of hand, but Claire and I, it wasn't supposed to go that far. You keep using that word, I said. Supposed. Well, yeah, he muttered defensively. We were drinking, one thing led to another. Save it. He paused. I want to fix this. I want us to be brothers again. Brothers? I laughed darkly. Marcus, you betrayed me in the worst way possible. There's no going back from this. You're overreacting, he snapped suddenly. People cheat all the time. It happens. Not with their sibling's spouse. He was silent. I continued, voice trembling with quiet fury. You had the entire world of women to choose from. Anyone. And you chose her. You chose the one person you knew would destroy me. I didn't mean... You did, I interrupted. You meant every moment you kept it a secret. He exhaled shakily. So what now? You cutting me off? I thought about it. Really thought. Yes, I said finally. I'm done. He stayed silent for a long time. Then he whispered, she's pregnant. Something inside me froze. What? She's pregnant, he repeated, voice barely audible. She told me today. I felt the world tilt, like the ground under me suddenly wasn't attached to anything. But she doesn't know if it's yours or mine, he added. I closed my eyes. My heart felt like a fist tightening in my chest. When did you find out? I asked. A couple hours ago. And you didn't think to lead with that? I didn't know how, he whispered. I hung up. I didn't break. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. I just sat down on the floor, leaned my back against the wall, and stared at nothing. A child. A child that might not be mine. A child created during betrayal. I didn't know what to feel. Rage, sadness, fear, all of it crashed into me at once like a wave I couldn't outrun. My phone buzzed again. Claire this time. Please, we need to talk again. I wrote back, is it true? She replied instantly, yes. I typed, whose is it? A long pause. Then, I don't know. I put the phone down. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The idea of raising a child conceived during an affair, the idea of not raising it, both felt like knives pressed against my throat. After nearly an hour of sitting there, frozen, I wrote, we're doing a paternity test, immediately. She replied, okay, and until then, we are not together. Another message, I understand. Her last message came a minute later. I'm sorry, I wish I could take everything back. I didn't respond. The next week felt like an eternity. A blur of hospital appointments, paperwork, awkward silences, and sleepless nights. When the test results finally came in, I sat in my car for almost 10 minutes before opening the envelope. The words were simple, clinical. 99.9% probability that you are not the biological father. I exhaled slowly. A long breath. The weight of the world leaving my lungs. And then, unexpectedly, I cried. Not for her, not for him. Not for the child. I cried for the version of myself that died in all of this. The man who believed in loyalty. The man who trusted his wife. The man who trusted his brother. The man who thought his life was stable, safe, predictable. That man was gone. When I finally wiped my face, I felt empty, but clean. Like a wound had been opened and drained. I drove to Claire's new apartment, the one she had moved into temporarily. She opened the door, eyes already wet, as if she'd been crying for hours. It's Marcus's, I said simply. She collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I ruined everything. I didn't comfort her. I didn't move closer. I just stood there, watching her crumble. I forgive you, I said softly. She looked up, stunned. But we are done. Her lips trembled. Is there really no chance? No, I said gently. Not anymore. Too much broke. She started crying again, harder this time. I turned to leave. As I reached the door, she whispered, will you ever talk to me again? I paused. After a long silence, I said, maybe someday, when it doesn't hurt anymore, but not now. And then I walked away. For the last time. As for Marcus, I haven't spoken to him since. He sent messages, long ones, apologies, explanations, desperate attempts to justify his actions. I didn't read most of them. Eventually, I blocked his number. Family reached out, trying to mediate, trying to patch things up. But some wounds don't close with simple apologies. Some things change the shape of your soul. I didn't attend his wedding when he eventually married Claire. Yes, they got married. Of course they did. People said I should be the bigger person. People said life goes on. People said maybe it was meant to be. People love saying things when it's not their life burning to the ground. I moved to a new city a year later, got a new job, a new apartment, a new routine. Slowly, painfully, I rebuilt myself. Not the old version, a new one who understood boundaries, one who recognized danger in familiar faces, one who learned that love isn't always loyal, and loyalty isn't always love. I still think about it sometimes, late at night, when the world goes quiet. But now, the memory feels distant, like a story that happened to someone else, a ghost of a past life. And every time I think of that old life, that old version of me, I whisper softly into the dark. You survived, you kept going, you rebuilt, and that is enough.